Hello YouTubers. Many are under the impression that Christians should always be opposed to war, or they should just be pacifists. My response is that the Bible teaches nothing of the sort. Christians should be in favor of a just war, as Augustine rightfully pointed out. This video shows what the Bible teaches about war. I also want to point out that most of the wars in our recent history have not been just. And that's the reason we haven't really won a war since the last just war, which was World War II. But I believe that a just war is coming, and that we need to rally together. Let's start with something that every Christian recognizes, that the God of the Old Testament is also the God of the New Testament. If one believes that the God of the Old Testament is the same as the God of the New Testament, one must conclude that God is not opposed to war. After all, King David was quite the warmonger. Let's look at one encounter Saul had with the Philistines. In short, God told Saul to kill every last Philistine, also known as the Amalek. Because Saul left one alive, he lost favor with the Lord. As 1 Samuel chapter 28 records, because you did not obey the voice of the Lord and did not carry out his fierce wrath against the Amalek, therefore the Lord has done this thing to you this day. Moreover, the Lord will give Israel also with you into the hands of the Philistines, and tomorrow you and your sons shall be with me. The Lord will give the army of Israel also into the hand of the Philistines. So King Saul died for his transgression, for not killing every last Philistine. First Chronicles records this. It states, so Saul died for his breach of faith. He broke faith with the Lord in that he did not keep the command of the Lord, and also consulted a medium, seeking guidance. He did not seek guidance from the Lord. And therefore the Lord put him to death and turned the kingdom over to David, the son of Jesse. While there are many other examples of the Lord instructing his people to go to war, I'm not here to delineate all examples in the Bible, only to show that both the Old Testament and the New Testament confirm that we shouldn't be pacifists, that we shouldn't be afraid of a just war. So now let's look at some passages in the New Testament. Perhaps one of the most cited anti-war verses in the Bible is when Jesus said, those who live by the sword shall die by the sword. This verse is often taken out of context. Jesus was saying this because his disciples were wanting him to take up arms against the Jewish leaders. Jesus was saying that there wasn't anything just about taking up arms against them. Why not? Well, the Roman Empire was already put there to slaughter the Jews and also destroy the temple, just as previous empires like the Babylonians were appointed to slaughter the Jews and destroy the temple. Jesus knew that in a few years that the destruction of the temple would come. So, in short, the Romans were already put there to do the mission that God had appointed them to do. Jesus had a different mission. Yes, the Romans also ended up persecuting the Christians, but unlike the Jews, the persecution of Christians only strengthened them and ultimately led to the collapse of the Roman Empire, actually. This view is reiterated in Romans 13, which states, therefore, whoever resists the authorities resists what God has appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment. For rulers are not a terror to good conduct, but to bad. Would you have no fear of the one who is in authority? Then do what is good, and you will receive his approval. For he is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. For he is the servant of God, an avenger who carries out God's wrath on the wrongdoer. One final verse I'd like to cite is from Psalms, where David is to have written a Psalm of David. Blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. Clearly David identified the Lord, even his rock, which represents Jesus, as the one who trained him for war. So how can we say that the Lord is opposed to war? Just like the Roman Empire, we should do as the Lord appointed us to do. Let us make war with China, who is now rewriting the Bible to conform to the communist regime. Let us make war with China, who has no respect for human rights. Let us make war with China, because if we don't, they will cause our collapse. Thanks for your time. If you found this video helpful, please show your support by subscribing. Thanks once again.